It is currently 7 o'clock. I am going to walk over to a cafe. Just happens to be the cafe that I work at, so I'll feel comfortable sitting there, seeing my friends, having some free coffee. I'm about to spend the day reading a book that's banned in prison. Okay, so the 48 Laws of Power. It's a very controversial book. It was written by Robert Greene in 1998, and the book basically demonstrates the ways in which someone can obtain and maintain power. Each chapter introduces a new law, such as learn to keep people dependent on you. Since then, it has become the second most banned book in prison, but it's also helped a lot of people recognize power dynamics at play in corporate and political spaces. Personally, I have avoided this book for a long time, but I finally wanted to challenge myself to read it, and so here I am. I just got back from the cafe. I'm doing my makeup for the day. Let's see if I can double task. I have so many thoughts about this book. Most of them are negative. However, I am trying to emotionally distance myself from this book. As someone who has always put empathy at the forefront of my belief system, this is a challenging read. I've seen Robert Greene speak a little bit in interviews, and he'll say that this is a way to defend yourself against the 48 Laws of Power. Reading this book is a way to defend yourself against these tactics. And while I think that that may be true, and I know more about what to look for, who do you think is seeking this book out? Who do you think goes to a library looking for a book called The 48 Laws of Power? I wish we had thought a little bit more about the repercussions of writing a book like this. I didn't really think about the outcome of bringing that book to a cafe that I worked at. A lot of people came up to me and asked what I was reading, and it went a little bit like this. I'm reading something called The 48 Laws of Power, which is a little bit embarrassing because I don't believe in this. I'm just doing it for a challenge. And then they'd be like, oh, well, what is it about? And I'd be like, how to manipulate people, but like, again, I don't believe in that, and why did I do that? I can see how some of these rules are helpful. I think there's a time and place to utilize them, like debates. If you are oppressed within a society, I think you have a little more permission to use some of these rules. It is okay to use these rules on people who know them and already benefit from them. At the end of the day, if two people are playing chess, it's only a respectable win if both people know the rules. I just want to go back to my fantasy books where the people who end up in power are good people, morally sound people, and the people who think in ways that this book teaches, they don't do so well in the end. They're evil. Alright, I wrote a lot of my thoughts down at this cafe. Law 7. Get others to do the work for you, but always take the credit. What's our end goal? That's the thing. What's our end goal? Do you know what I mean? Do we care more about the inventions? Do we care more about bettering humanity? Or do we care about our name in history books? I thought it was the former. Personally, I thought it was the former. Okay. This one I thought was interesting. I'm not mad at it. Law 8. Make other people come to you. Use bait if necessary. This one didn't rile me up as much because I think I can take something from it. In arguments, I tend to get emotional right off the bat, and that's because I always assume that someone is coming at an argument from an honest place. This chapter has made me realize that there are certain people who weaponize that. It would be helpful if I added a layer of protection between myself and someone's counter-argument, knowing that people will start arguments just to bait you, just to see you riled up. Law number 9, win through your actions, never through argument. I have to say I like this one. We're so used to arguing with each other verbally because this is such a divided time that we forget that sometimes arguing is just not the answer. Sometimes you can lead people to another perspective without forcing those words in their face. I think overall people can be quite egotistical, and a lot of times people want to believe that they are responsible for their own self-actualization. If you are truly in it for changing someone else's perspective and not the reward that comes with being right, I think you would be comfortable quietly leading someone to that through actions. I think this is why I'm attracted to theater and movies, art. I think certain plays are banned in certain countries because of how powerful they are. It's because plays will show you something that makes you sit with your own feelings and thoughts on a certain matter without saying, hey, you should believe this. Still gives you the freedom to make your own choice about what you just saw. A lot of these rules contradict themselves. You know, you have don't trust your friends, use your enemies. But then you also have crush your enemies. And then you have all of these tactics of manipulation, yet one of the chapters says protect your reputation at all costs. So how are you supposed to do that? It's a very repetitive pattern. I mean, it's rule, observance of the law, which includes a bunch of historical accounts of people using the law. That's the other thing, is I almost feel like the historical accounts are manipulated in a way to support the laws, and I don't think they always fit in the way that Robert Greene is trying to make them fit. I think a lot of times he assumes the intention behind certain actions. I think it's a bit silly to write a Bible on how to manipulate people as if all of this is fact. I just think you should be aware of any book that preaches ideas as though they're the only correct way of thinking. I thought about what it would be like for someone, a new friend perhaps, to come over to my room and see on my bookshelf that I have tabbed every single chapter in this book just to keep track of where I am and to be able to go back to certain sections later and intellectualize them a little bit more. I thought about what it would be like for someone to see that on my bookshelf. Oh my God! Is there a bigger red flag? Imagine. They see that I've tabbed, keep people dependent, say less than necessary. Like, imagine going into someone's room and seeing all of those tabs. There is something that I really want to speak about in terms of this book. Genuinely, where are the women? Like, where? And I don't want to jump into a critique saying, oh, this is misogynistic. Like, I really want to have a conversation about this. Did we leave women out of the conversation because there's less historical examples that have been put into a written text that we can take from? Or are we leaving women out of the conversation because we're assuming that women overall have more empathy and don't live by these laws? I'm not necessarily saying it's one of these things. I'm just curious. I am almost 200 pages in and there have only been three examples. Even a certain chapter talking about who to avoid offending. The arrogant and proud man, the hopelessly insecure man, Mr. Suspicious. I would genuinely love to sit down with Robert Greene and talk about why he left women out of a lot of the conversation happening here. I think all of the historical examples have taken place within a patriarchy. Do we think that these laws would still apply in a matriarchy? I challenge you to ask that. I still have half the book to read! I have half of 48 Laws of Power to read still, so I gotta get going. If it's loud, it's because the people above me are having a party. Go off. I'm gonna do a fun little transition. I've been wanting to do one of these. If it's all in how other people perceive you that matters to you, isn't that giving your power away? Quote, those who cry in public may temporarily elicit sympathy, but sympathy soon turns to scorn and irritation at their self-obsessiveness. They are crying to get attention, we feel. Who's we? It's not me. And a malicious part of us wants to deny them the satisfaction. Maybe if you're a sociopath, conceal your mistakes. Have a scapegoat around to take the blame. You think that's gonna work every time? Sorry, I'm just thinking of the logistical aspects of this now, since we've already thrown morality out the window. What's your plan? I mean, maybe after one time, but what happens if you get caught? That's kind of embarrassing for you. Trying to blame someone else for your own mistakes? That just makes you look worse than owning up to them. I'm gonna make some broccoli because I need a break. This chapter, Law 27, is called Play on People's Need to Believe to Create a Cult-Like Following. I'm gonna let that sit. Just let that simmer, okay? Let it cook. Let it cook. You know how we used to go on witch hunts? We tried to find the people in our society that we thought were witches. Maybe we should do that for people who use the 48 laws of power. I'm just saying. Just kidding. You know, I keep thinking about this one section that Robert Greene included. The one about people who wear their hearts on their sleeves are boring? I don't even remember what he said. Obviously I'm remembering this one because I'm offended by it, but doesn't his statement completely contradict what he said earlier about protecting your reputation? If you want to have a reputation for being a sincere person, which is a positive, why would you just not try to be a sincere person? Like, why is that not the shortest path to that reputation? Sorry, but why does it have to be like, I'm going to act sincere, but then I'm going to try to get to my enemies behind their back by using someone else to do my dirty work for me? Like, honestly, just be sincere and you'll probably have an easier time. This is crazy. The Science of Charlatanism, or How to Create a Cult in 5 Easy Steps. I've always wanted to create a cult. This is scarily accurate. It makes me realize if I recorded myself in a concert hall with 100 people cheering me on for my music, people might check out my music more than they are currently. I was gonna say I would never do that. But if you see 100 people cheering me on in a concert hall, you can be a little suspicious. Initial speeches, conversations, and interviews must include 2 elements. On the one hand, the promise of something great and transformative, and on the other, a total vagueness. This combination will stimulate all kinds of hazy dreams in your listeners, who will make their own connections and see what they want to see. Yeah. I do think this is a very important chapter because there are examples of this in reality right now. Someone using the tactics of creating a cult in order to manipulate a large mass of people. being able to spot the signs is a tool that everyone deserves. I'm going to catch up on some sleep, and I will see you tomorrow morning to finish this book. Good morning! It is the second day of reading 48 Laws of Power. I'm having a blast. I'm on Law 32 out of 48. I think that's pretty far. Without further ado, let's get into this. This is interesting. This is basically saying humans are used to the mundane. They're used to results taking hard work and patience and self-sacrifice. And if you promise humans a fantasy of, oh, if you do this, you'll get results quicker, you can access a lot of power. The wellness industry taps into this all the time. They promise fast results. They say you'll be happier if you have this kind of clear skin, which comes from this potion that you take every day. Good luck is more dangerous than bad luck. Bad luck teaches valuable lessons about patience, timing, and the need to be prepared for the worst. Good luck deludes you into the opposite lesson, making you think your brilliance will carry you through. Your fortune will inevitably turn, and when it does, you will be completely unprepared. I'm done. I read the 48 Laws of Power in 48 hours. I genuinely can't believe I read that whole book. I also would like to believe that this book truly portrays the worst of humanity, and it's not all this bad. Like, I would think that people who follow these rules make up a lesser percentage than people who have never heard of these types of manipulation tactics and generally strive to be a good person in life rather than obtaining power. Personally, I will never recommend this book to anyone. I think there are other ways to learn how to tell if someone's manipulating you. I don't really think you need to read this book for that. But if you want to, and if you're curious, then be my guest. I just think this book was a little too much, I think. Again, I'm always happy to have conversations about these types of things. With all that being said, thank you for coming along in this journey, for watching this video. I make book content every single week, and every month I write a new song about a book that I've read. So if you're interested in that, give me a like, give me a follow. If not, have fun on your side of the internet. And thanks for getting to the end. So I'll see you next week.